What if I told you 70% of the business globally go wrong with ERP just because of one reason? Yes, and that is change management. Now, change management is a very widely used term in the ERP world or in any kind of business transformation process. Generally, an ERP synthesizer or a consultant or stakeholders or anyone in the business community would attribute the failure of ERP to ineffective implementation of change management. But the catch is, no one exactly says what are the list of points that needs to be executed a change management during an ERP implementation is properly handled. Hi there, my name is Raman and I'm from a company called Emerging Alliance. In my experience of working with more than 1,000+ companies over the past 25 years, I've come across a lot of situations, scenarios where I have seen a successful SAP implementation coming up with flying colors and an equal numbered failure implementations which have gone bust. In this video, I'm going to consolidate my 25 years of experience of working with more than 1,000+ companies in coming up with a very precise checklist to handle change management. And if this checklist is followed meticulously, then there is no doubt that your ERP implementation will come out successfully. Without wasting any more time, let's just get into the video. Now, the checklist I'm going to give you are broadly categorized into 4 major categories. Each category will have a set of checkpoints. The first broad category is lack of clear communication. Now, one very important aspect of change management where most of the organization fail is they do not give enough importance to communication. Now, communication is going to hold a very key ticket to success. Communication to stakeholders, communication to users, communication to people, and sometimes even to business partners like customers and vendors are very, very critical because you're going to go through a major change in your entire process by implementing ERP, and it is essential that people get to know about it. Insufficient explanation of the purpose, benefits, and impact of implementing an ERP like SAP can lead to misalignment and confusions. So you have to ensure the following checkpoints under the topic lack of clear communication. The first checkpoint, define the objective and communicate. What do I mean by this? Ensure that the topmost person of the company, might it be the CEO or the director or managing director, has a loud and clear email sent to all the employees, stakeholders, and business partners like customer and suppliers. The clear-cut vision and reason for implementing a solution like ERP, and also tell what are the clear benefits that the company is going to achieve for each of the stakeholders. Like employees, what are the benefits? Business partners, what are the benefits? Major department heads and stakeholders, what are the benefits? Now, this has to come from the topmost person. There's no other alternative to this. And this communication is very, very critical. Sending the mail is not the only option. If an event can be conducted or a gathering can be conducted where the critical stakeholder or the CEO, CXO of the company can come and give a speech or can come and make an announcement, that would be considered more effective than sending a mail. So you can choose the mode of communication. The CXO communication is very critical. The second checkpoint is frequent updates. Now make sure that there is a regular update on the ERP implementation. Now, these updates can be through mails. There can be different mails for different set of people. You can have one set of email going for a larger audience like users and employees, one set of emails which can go to a niche audience which are the department heads or executive stakeholders, one set of updates for business partners and customers and suppliers, and so on. Or there can be, apart from emails, there can be newsletters or town hall meetings or gatherings or monthly gatherings or events where you get to meet your employees or your larger community. Make sure that you give them a regular update. Now, these regular update means a lot to your community, means a lot to your employees, and they start feeling involved into the implementation process, which is the key aspect of the change management. The third checkpoint is establish a feedback channel. Now, you can create your own mechanism of having a feedback channel. It might be a dedicated resource who's appointed designated to take a feedback, or you can have team-wise someone who can collect the feedback, or there can be a forum which can be started to basically post some questions and you can have your people provide feedback, or there can be polls conducted. So there are various mechanisms, but it is essential that you understand voice of your business and the people involved in the business through a feedback. And if there are any concerns and questions, it should be taken through a feedback channel. The fourth checkpoint is address the concerns. So when you go ahead and collect the feedback, or when you have a Q&A session and collect the feedback, make sure that you address the questions or address the clarifications or the concerns that the business community has, or the business or the people involved in the business have. This is very, very essential. When people who are going to adopt ERP have concerns and those concerns are not addressed, they feel as if an application or system is being pushed onto them without their acceptance, and that slowly gets converted into a huge level of resistance. On one side or the other, people start ignoring just because they are not heard, especially if there are any misconceptions involved. It's fine if there are clarifications, doubts and concerns, but if there are any misconceptions which are involved, then it becomes even more critical for the stakeholders to ensure that it is eradicated as early as possible. The fifth checkpoint is ensure that you celebrate milestones. Even though it's a small milestone in the journey of implementing ERP, please ensure that you celebrate it. Celebration doesn't mean that it has to be a gala party, but if there is current state study which has been completed, just announce it, call people and celebrate it. If it's a data migration that has been completed, do celebrate it and try to explain the challenges and how the team overcame those challenges. Celebrate them, appreciate people who have really contributed. And finally, if you're going to do a validation and testing and it has been completed successfully, do celebrate it. And when you go live, ensure that there's a celebration. After going live, if 1 month is completed successfully, 2 months is completed successfully, ensure that you celebrate those small milestones, and this gives a lot of confidence in your people and the user that they are also engaged, recognized and appreciated for their involvement. The sixth and the last checkpoint under this heading is show your people the ROI. Now, whenever you provide an update after going live with ERP to your business people, ensure that you talk about the values and benefit that ERP has got you. Like before and after. Before ERP took so much time. After ERP we are taking so much time. Before ERP we had so many mistakes, but after ERP we have reduced it to so much. So share the values, share the benefits that you have gained out of implementing ERP. Now, there can be many more checkpoints under this topic, but what I have mentioned are the top 6 key checkpoints under the topic lack of clear communication. The second broad topic that we are going to see, insufficient leadership or stakeholder support. Now, this is very key in an ERP implementation. So most of the time what happens is the person sitting on the top basically has a directive to implement a solution like ERP without having consensus or without having acceptance from his first line of command or major stakeholders. Like you don't have and buy-in from a marketing head or a sales head, or you don't have a buy-in from a quality head, or the production head has concerns which has not been addressed, but it is a directive given. So we have many situations where stakeholder involvement or engagement is very minimal, and because of which issues start coming out when we go into implementation. Or the other way around, the implementation is in decision of the first line of command who are not in harmony or synchronized with each other, and the person sitting at the top has completely handed over to the first line of command and he is completely not involved. Then even in those cases, the implementation, because of change management, not handled properly. Any kind of lack of involvement from the senior management will always lead to lack of motivation and direction among the employees or users of ERP. And if there are stakeholder silos, which means like there's a silo in quality department head by a stakeholder, there's a silo of a production department head by a production in charge, there's a silo in finance and banking head by an in charge, and these are people who do not communicate with each other. If that happens, even then you will have a misalignment and failure because of change management. Stakeholder silos will always lead to fragmentation and miscommunication. So the first checkpoint under this topic, insufficient leadership or stakeholder support, is identify all the stakeholders who are critical to implementing a solution like ERP. Now, the stakeholder doesn't have to be someone who is of authority or who holds a top position in the company. It can sometimes even be some critical role player down the line. Even then, he or she becomes a stakeholder. So ensure that you have a proper list of stakeholders available with you. So create a comprehensive and extensive list of stakeholders at all levels, which will include your executives, managers, and even end users. The second checkpoint in this category is involve stakeholders early in the cycle. What do I mean by this? Make sure that you communicate to the stakeholders and engage them early in the cycle of implementation, which means that whenever there's a decision of going into implementations like ERP, make sure there's proper engagement from them. Please note, I'm not using the word participation. It is engagement, which means that you basically tell them that this is the idea and they start contributing or giving their inputs of what should be taken care of, what should be the do's and don'ts when you get into an implementation like ERP. Now that's what we call as engagement. Now such a process will ensure that you gather their inputs and align their expectations. Agreement and alignment between the stakeholders itself is a very critical change management activity in an ERP implementation. The third checkpoint in this category is something we even discussed earlier, is regular communication with the stakeholders on key happenings in the project. Make sure that the project manager or the implementation partner has a regular update posted to all the stakeholders and ensure that those updates are very transparent in nature. Not just the good news. If there are bad news and if there's some mistake to be pointed against a stakeholder, it has to be done. But this transparency and active communication has to be kept live throughout the project. So the communications can be about the project goals, the progress of the project, the failures that are being facing, people who are delaying, and if there are any potential changes which are involved, all those things can be part of your update. The fourth checkpoint is role modeling by stakeholder. And what do I mean by that? Simple. You can't expect others to change if you do not change. So a role modeling would mean that the stakeholders start using the system. The stakeholders get into the system. The stakeholders participate or use the system and tell people in business that they are using it, they are utilizing it. And this has a great impact. Like if a stakeholder or a head of the department or the CEO or the CXO himself uses the system, would mean that others also should fall in line. So stakeholders role modeling, leaders should demonstrate commitment to the change by actively using the new system and the processes. So those are the 4 checkpoints under the topic insufficient leadership or stakeholder support. The next topic, and in fact the most crucial topic in change management, misalignment with business processes. Now every business which basically aspires to implement an ERP or decides to go in with ERP will have a legacy process in place or will have a process that they have established and garnered over a period of time. Now when those processes do not get mapped or are not found in an ERP, then it's in chaos. Most of the time, standard ERP processes do not align with the legacy process of a business, which requires a significant adjustments on both the sides. Sometimes, if the legacy process are very crucial and important, then those have to be customized in ERP. And other times, when the process available in ERP are efficient and global best practices, then that has to be incorporated in your people and business. Now, if this change is not handled properly, then resistance arises because employees feel the new ERP system is basically disrupting their workflow and efficiency of doing a work without adding the necessary values. So the checkpoints that I'm going to give in this particular heading are very key. The first checkpoint in this topic of misalignment with business process is document the current process. Please ensure that your current process is available as a document. If you're an ISO company, then there'll be an SOP or a standard operating procedure available. Or every department will have an operation manual or an operating manual. Please ensure that the current state business process is well documented, well explained to the implementation partner or consultant, and the pain points or the nice to have and futuristic expectation is also very well communicated. Now this is very essential that you have a documented current state business process which is very well understood by the implementation partner or the ERP consultant. The second checkpoint is ensure that you try to adhere to a process standardization. If there are practices coming from ERP, which is a global practice followed throughout the globe, And if there are practices and processes in ERP which are shorter, can be done faster, has more checkpoints, mandates, and foolproof mechanism, please go ahead and adhere to it. Now, this will ensure that when SAP starts upgrading the application, starts changing, you also can travel along with them in the global best practices of processor. The third checkpoint is gap analysis. Ensure that you have a proper gap analysis by department, by process, documented and available. What do we mean by that? Your legacy process has step 1, 2, 3. Your SAP's process has only step 1 and 3. There's no 2 available, missing. Or there is a process available in your legacy which is not at all available in SAP. So these are all gaps. Ensure that the gaps are clearly identified and documented and numbered. For all these gaps identified, there are 3 ways to go. Number 1, either you go ahead with a workaround with a standard process available in ERP, or do a customization in ERP. The third one, don't bring that process in ERP at all. Just keep it outside as ERP. But whatever it is, out of these 3 choices, ensure that the gaps are documented, and for those gaps, what is one of these 3 solutions should be clearly identified. The fourth checkpoint in this topic is do a piloting, which is a small start. There are 2 ways of doing it. Either you go ahead and do a soft launch. You bring all the people who are in your order to cash, procure to pay, and plan to produce cycle, make them sit in a room and ensure that you simulate your entire business cycle or in that particular piloting room, and get the confidence that the entire system can be run without any issues. Or take the system and implement it in a smaller department or smaller business unit and try to run it for at least 1 or 2 weeks. And if it runs without any issues, then it's an indication that the process that is established in ERP is a mature process or can be run in production. It is very simple. It's like you pilot a car. A new car comes out, you basically test ride it, drive it, put through all the kind of tests before you take it to production or before you sell it to the end customer, right? That's the same way you want to do it over here. The fifth checkpoint is ensure that you learn and adjust. In all this piloting, if there are any learnings, if there are any adjustments that you make, that you want to make, ensure that you do it quickly and fastly. You also have to ensure that these fine-tuning are done before you go into a full-scale implementation. Now, these 5 checkpoints are pretty critical and key checkpoints in misalignment with business process. Finally, the fourth broad topic, which is inadequate training and adoption. There is no glory in having the world-famous ERP implemented in your company, or the stakeholders are completely aligned and the CXOs have full participation. It doesn't mean anything because they are the people who are going to drive the system for you. So the checkpoints under this topic is going to be very, very, very critical. So the first checkpoint in this particular topic, inadequate training and adoption, is a customized training. You cannot have a mass training when it comes to ERP implementation. You need to have a customized training program, which is the only way this will work. So you will have to have a role-based training program for a particular job description. Depending upon the size of implementation, there can be various methods of training. One can be, if it's a large training program, then you can have subject matter experts from every department who can be trained and they can go and train their users. So it's like train the trainer concept. Or if it's a smaller implementation, then the consultants can directly train the users. We call it as a sit-by-side training. So more personalized and customized the training gets, the more effective it becomes. The second checkpoint is hands-on practice. Now, it's just not enough if you have a customized or a tailored training program. You will have to ensure that enough time is provided to the user so that they go back, use the system completely. A rule of thumb would be like a user makes this 21 to 25 will have all scenarios for a particular transaction. So we'll have to wait, or we'll have to ensure that these users go back after the training and use their system and make those entries. So an hands-on experience ERP system is very, very essential. The third checkpoint is provide support for people who are not fast enough, or provide support for people who are falling back. So do not ignore people who are not able to adapt to the new system. There might be several reasons why they cannot be adopted, well, starting from their IQ levels or their experience or their age. But we'll have to make sure that the cogwheel scenario, so for the entire process to roll, everyone in the gear and wheel mechanism should operate the system and you cannot leave behind anyone. So ensure that you have enough plan for supporting people who are going to fall back or who are taking time to learn, and you have a one-on-one session with them, or you have the department SMEs or subject matter expert go sit with them and bring them onto board is what's required. The third checkpoint, select and establish change agents. And what do I mean by that? Identify employees who can act as a change champion within a particular department or within their teams. Now, these change agents can be people who can work with their fellow department members or your fellow team members and will equip them with new features, functionalities, and bring everyone on board. Now, such agents will ensure that they rapidly improve your rate of adoption. The fifth checkpoint is incentivize the adoption. Recognize and reward employees and people who have done and adopted the new system and have promoted the change. Now, the incentivization can be very simple. Now, there are many ways in which you can incentivize it, like the first 100 invoices was done by the team and incentivization for them, or 100 POs generated on SAP, there can be an incentivization for them, or the first month has been closed on ERP. So you can recognize and reward employees and teams, which will give them the motivation to move ahead and adopt it further. The sixth and the last checkpoint under this topic is creation of a knowledge base. Now, creation of knowledge base can be documenting of how process needs to be done. That can start from as simple as I am a user and I do a certain process. I can always screen record the process that I'm doing. So we have seen examples of many customers like how to create a PO in an ERP. There's a 1-minute video created by the user himself and it's put into a knowledge base where that so that people coming in the future can basically look into those videos and practice how to manage fixed asset, how to do year-end closing. All these can be created as a video, or a screenshot can be compiled as a document, or a Word document, or a journal, or a manual. Something can be made and created as a knowledge base so that people who basically join later or come later can basically look at those knowledge base and basically get into the system. Now, those are the 6 checkpoints under this particular topic: inadequate training and adoption. So I have given you all the checkpoints under these 4 broad topics. Now, if you ensure that these checkpoints are meticulously followed when you do an ERP implementation, then you have a very bright chance of successfully implementing an ERP solution. If you are a business aspiring to implement an ERP or already implemented an ERP system and finding it difficult, struggling to go live, or a company which has already implemented ERP system, gone live and struggling to use it, then please talk to us. We will be more than happy to have a one-on-one discussion with you. In these discussions, we would try to understand your grievances, your issues, and guide you of how to move forward. Moreover, if you want the detailed checklist as an Excel format, do comment on the section as checklist. We'll be more than happy to send that Excel to you to have a one-on-one discussion with you, trying to understand your pain points, issues, and grievances, and see how you can help you to implement a successful ERP solution. Our coordinates and contacts are available in the description below, and as I told you, we'll be more than happy to have a one-on-one session in discussing your issues on an ERP implementation. Thank you once again, and look forward to meeting you in one more interesting video on an ERP.